is quorum. Just a quick clarification. Business in theory, you just walked in, but you had asked to be on the agenda that was already set before you submitted your item. So since we do have public participation, that's 3 minutes, and then you can leave documents with us. Would that work for you today? Or do we need to?
Remember, Madam Manager,
Please go to that.
Good evening. NY Theory Association to Preserve the Eatonville Community. You will remember that Ms. Bonds had me to make a presentation in March. I indicated that the grant application is submitted by the end of June, and in order for us to be able to take advantage of that cash match, that is why I was told that this would be handled in June. So I did have something that Director Marlon Daniels asked to be presented. I sent that. We were able to get that. So it is a time-sensitive matter. In other words, if the CRA is going to make a cash match, then we really do need to hear back about this in order to make the deadline.
Okay, so then the only thing that, a couple of things, because the item was not posted to the public, the agenda was already done. So that decision item, the other items are discussion, we're not making decisions on them. So this would be a decision item that you would need today, and it's not on the agenda. So if it's not on this agenda, then what we'd have to do is perhaps do a special session prior to the next Tuesday's meeting, or I don't know if, so I'm going to ask Attorney Jackson to weigh in.
Yes, ma'am. In order to have a item for action, they have to be voted upon. Therefore, it has to be a special meeting that's set.
So a special meeting for, I would say that our next
Council meeting?
council meeting, which is Tuesday. If we can just meet
Well,
instead.
we have workshop at 6:30. We have council meeting at 7:30.
So if it's just this one item, perhaps we can meet at 6 for a
5:30.
special.
5:30. If we don't do it Tuesday, just to
So-
make sure there's ample time, in my
So
personal opinion.
5:30 Tuesday. And that would have to be noticed tomorrow, and that would give us 24 hours
Yeah. With hopes that we will have a quorum.
at 5:30 on Tuesday. Yes. That's the only way I can see it. I mean, we can call another special, session within.
Is there a deadline to make a decision?
I need to be able to send it in on the 30th of June. In other words, a letter saying that,
So we could do a whole nother day. I was just trying to think of when we're already going to be here. So I mean, it's up to the board if anyone else wants to weigh in on it. No other.
I'm not available next Tuesday.
So then we'll.
Oh,
have
that's
to-
right, he's out of town.
So then we can call we can still see if we have a quorum or
Mhm.
see what other day works.
Okay. So I can do that. So that would be June 20th.
So we can ask for June 20th. Yes.
At 5:30.
And then if that isn't available for a quorum, then maybe we can't do that Thursday because we have the other workshop. So, what works?
Okay. I'll put it out. And
Unless we know now when you'll be available. Does anyone have any dates they know they'll be available? I mean, I'm available Tuesday.
I mean, at such short notice, I think documentation needs to be presented. I mean, as Director Craig said, if you're just saying 30 minutes, I think this can well be over a 30-minute conversation. So, I don't know what everybody else weighed in, but I think if we can get documentation and then set a date, I think that'd be more presentable.
Could I ask what documentation we are being asked to give other than what you sent out, Director Moreland?
Is your microphone on, Mrs.? Yes, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is there other documentation than than the Tuesday, what is this, Thursday, the Wednesday email that you sent to me?
Chair, can we discuss now? Can we discuss this, or?
So the idea, the reason I brought it up was if you had a documentation with you today
I
in
do.
regards to your request, then you could take the 3 minutes of the public participation to explain the documentation, give it to us for review, and then we can have the decision at a special meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes. Councilwoman Randolph in the March meeting asked to have the 3 years of reporting, that 2019, 20, and 2021. That was sent to her. Last night, Director Daniels asked for documentation. We've given all the documentation we've gotten. In other words, there's not anything else to give other than, and what I did do was to indicate that because this is the Outdoor Festival of the Arts, I gave a pre-COVID budget of what we spent and a 2023, but that really, for $37,500, that's all the documentation there is from the QuickBooks.
And that was my question. So I asked for the last 5 years. I was going to ask for the last 10 because you provided 10 years of the TDT money that you received. So my fairness, I should have asked for the 10, but I asked for 5. And the reason I asked for that is because this item was being presented that it was going to come before us tonight, and it was only a cover sheet. There's no other documentation, and I know no place that you can go ask for $25,000 without having supportive documentation to go along with it. So that's why I asked for the last 5 years of how much money they have, and according to the document you sent me this morning, it was $37.5, correct?
That is correct for the
That's-
CRA. That's all you all have given us in the last 20 years.
The CRA and the town has only given
That's right,
$37.5.
$37,500.
What about the in-kind? Any in-kind?
No, you didn't ask for in-kind. You asked me for, in other words, let me be clear. The town of Eatonville has not really done any in-kind.
Okay, let me do this. So give your complete request for Mrs. Theory. You can then gather the materials and send it to us. Is there anything else? If you just give her a complete request of what you'd like, then I can ask each director, that way you know what to gather and present.
So would it be more feasible for us all to send in to the town clerk what we need from Ms. Theory, which I CC'd the town clerk in on last night, and then we can all get all the documentation. I think that's what the holdup is. We send stuff to certain individuals, and then we get up here, and then we have to prolong it for the next time because.
But you did request documentation. She
Yeah,
did
if
receive
I
it,
may,
but it's not all that you wanted. So the request right now is to ask for everything that you want. We're in an open forum. What better place to ask? If you're not certain there may be more, and you want to send an email, then say that. But she's here. If there's something else that you know that you want right now, let her know. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so I'm gonna read verbatim what I said. I said, Mr. Theory, good evening, Mr. Theory. Can you please provide to me the last 5 years, the funding, the PEC received from the town of Eatonville or Eatonville CRA? Also, can you provide a detailed expenditure of funds received during this time frame? The purpose of my request is, Ms. Bond stated that you're requesting $25,000. I'm trying to ensure the feasibility of funding. I need to be able to make an economical decision. Please provide any of this information you provide reference to the funding. Only thing I received was a QuickBooks of $37.5 and broad things that it was labor and all of those aspects. That's not detailed to me.
With all due respect, the town of Eatonville has given $37,500, period. And so that's what you have back. That's what you have back. I can't invent 5 years or 10 years, when the town of Eatonville has not given any expenditure other than the 25,000. And I need to correct for the record, I didn't ask, I left that request open-ended. I did not request $25,000. I simply said that I was saying to you all, I didn't want to get into an open-ended. I really didn't want to get into an open-ended.
Okay, so if you get your detailed expenditure report for 5 years, then you're good in regards to what you need to review to make your decision. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I'll be putting more in a sense. Mr. Theory don't think that in-kind should be detailed into, because in-kind is a budgetary amount also. And anyone who deals with budgets know that you add in-kind, because if you had to pay that, that would be expenditure that would have to be paid by the organization. So maybe I need to be more detailed myself and put it in.
I would say to you that we get audited every year, and then I'll be glad to send you the audit, but we don't have in our records an in-kind from the town of Eatonville. We do not have any record of in-kind from the town of Eatonville.
Okay, let me go to Director Randolph. If there's something else, I'll come back. Director Randolph, is there any other documentation that you would like from Mrs. Nthiri?
Well, I'm reviewing the documentation that was previously submitted on the.
Can you cut your microphone on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we'd like to know exactly what are the funds. Is this right?
Yes, you just cut it back off.
What's the purpose of the? Okay, you said funding $25,000. So are you asking for $25,000?
No, I really, to tell you the truth, I wanted to leave the amount up to the wisdom of the CRA directors.
Okay.
So then you want to request for what the funds will be used for?
Yeah. So what the funds are going to be used
Well,
for?
they would be used specific. Oh, I'm sorry.
Put this, what I'm trying to do is get you all the documentation that you'll need, and then you put it together, and then it can be sent to everyone.
Okay.
Would that work?
Mm-hmm. Because what I did is to try, I actually did that, Madam Mayor, I actually indicated the 4 areas where we would use those funds specific for the Outdoor Festival of the Arts. And I would say that since I sent that to the clerk, could she be responsible for circulating that to everyone?
When did you send?
I sent it.
You sent it to me only, or you sent it to the council?
No, I sent it to the people who were CC'd, and that is Director Daniels, Chad McKendrick, Nicole Bonds, and Veronica King. I sent that out this morning at 10:39 a.m.
So that email.
That's in your
All
inbox.
right, so that will give us the breakdown, what your request is.
That would be how I would see
Okay.
using the money, whatever it is, so that it's at the Outdoor Festival of the Arts,
Okay.
not generally.
All right, Vice Chair, do you have any?
I'll email.
The only thing for me, Mr. Theory, there was when we went into the Orange County, I'm trying to find the words for it, when Orange County would not release the TIF funds, that period of time, one of the things they wanted to make certain of is that we had a charitable giving procedure. And actually, one of the policy was not accepted by the board, but the charitable giving application that was prepared at that time, I mean, it would be best practice. I will send that to you, and that's all that I'm gonna ask. In addition, what everyone else is giving, we just add that to it. Some of the information might be what you're providing, though. Okay. All right.
I want to make a comment, please.
Yes. Director.
Okay. I really have some concerns about this whole. I don't have an issue about asking for the money, but the issue is whether or not the CRA can actually do this. Now, let me just say, I'm just explaining. Maybe the CRA was doing this in the past, but that shouldn't dictate that we should be able to continue that. I went to extensive training on May 5th. This was an issue that came up that was on the minds of a lot of, quite a few of the CRA board members.
Mhm.
That a lot of the CRAs were funding festivals, concerts, and those kinds of things. So I have an insert here. The Florida statute 163.370, and it's a compact view. It says, according to the Florida statutes, the use of tax increment funds for festivals, block parties, and special events is not authorized under the community redevelopment statutes. And that's what it says here. And it was very clear on that. There's nowhere here on our budget that we have in our budget for these types of activities. The only way that the CRA can give money, I would say maybe not give money, but maybe an expenditure. If we had a CRA, let's say, a fair for the CRA, like on housing, rental assistance, and things like that, and maybe we want someone to come in and maybe just on a little stage play some music or DJ, that would be permissible. But on the level of how we're asking for these funds for this purpose, to me, it really wouldn't matter because it is not authorized.
Director Randolph, thank you very much. You're saving a lot of wasted time because if that really is, and frankly, I had heard around the state that festivals, in other words, CRA was having they were getting some difficulty about the way, but I would say that in your CRA, there is a talk about culture and heritage and like that. So it's, believe me, there's so much on the plate that I will respectfully withdraw the request given what you have said, because if that is the case, then, you know, that, especially if that is the wisdom of the board. And as I said, I know,
Can you talk in the mic?
I'm sorry, I know as a matter of fact that CRAs have been under really strict review, but because what you have in your CRA document about the furtherance of culture and heritage and all of that, that is why we came. But I think that I would rather, because the deadlines are so tight, I'd rather be able to come for us to, I was instructed to ask in March, all right? I came in March with the understanding that in June, you know, there would be a decision made. I did not think about whether I need to follow up with the agenda. So I think that given where we are, this is, what is this, the 15th of the month, and we've got 2 major grants that are due, plus a presentation tomorrow, plus a this, plus a that. I'd rather not. I've given you what I can give you based on what the bookkeeper gave and how we do things. I think it would be a better use of all of our times if I respectfully withdraw the request.
So you do not want us to?
No, because it sounds like that it could put the, in other words, from what I'm...
Mr. Theory, if it's in the plan, if it's in the budget, if it's in the district, it is allowed by CRA. And although in the past CRAs have abused, we can definitely make a justification for this particular affair that has been going on for 34 years. So if you want a final decision, we can get that for you, but I definitely don't want you to walk away from that lectern just taking something read in the statute in the manner that it was. So if you want the director to...
I think that it would be helpful to get a sense of, because I am not able to provide in kind. If that's going to be an issue, I can't provide that. So that's one thing out. Then, as the director has said, she has a problem. So that may be 3 votes right there. And so, as I said, there's a lot on our plate. Now, I would be interested in hearing the sense, because remember, the Zora Festival has 3 goals. to celebrate the life and work of Zora Neale Hurston, to celebrate the historic significance of the town of Eatonville, and to celebrate the cultural content. I mean, Eatonville is not a symbol. But if this is a problem,
Okay, so we'll do this. Would you, I'll get with you later, and we'll get your final decision, legal decision. And then you can make the request for a special meeting, if you so wish. Okay?
Madam Chair.
Excuse me one second. Go ahead, I'm
If I
sorry.
may,
Go
I'm
ahead.
quiet over here. To Director Randolph's point, I am familiar with that statute, and I would advise, in my personal opinion, that the integrity of that statute be verified by counsel. Because without a Juris Doctorate, it is hard to interpret some statutes. I was at that same training, so I'm familiar with what she's referencing. I also agree that before we let you walk away, considering that our plan documents do encourage arts and culture, that number one, after council reviews that statute, that we review our plan to ensure that it is in line with the statute before we demolish preserving our cultural history. And then again, if there is a way that council, the board, the executive director can find some time in a rush, I don't mean to put anything additional on your schedule, then I say before we walk away from something that is a staple in this community, that we just ensure that it is something that we can do, and if it is, then we move forward or decide otherwise. And I don't speak for the council, but even if it's not something that the CRA can do, that maybe the town can do, even if it's not this year, I know you have a couple of additional engagements coming up, I wish y'all the best of luck with that. Even if it's not this year, if it's something like she said that does need to be put into our budget, that we consider that as well. That's all, thank you.
Director Daniels.
Ms. Bond, if this was to take place, what line item of the budget would it come out of? Or it could possibly come out of?
It should already be a line item.
It's a,
Yeah.
it is a line item for programming and grants.
Can you talk to the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
Actually, there is a line, for PEC.
Yes, it's
It's capital
right here.
outlets.
Under capital outlays, programming, grants, yeah.
Programming and grants.
And how much was budgeted?
Right now, that was zeroed out. The adopted budget, that was zeroed out.
Yeah, so we'd have to make a budget adjustment, just like we would anywhere else. As long as it's in the plan, the
Yes.
CRA plan to cover these, and it's in the district, so.
So if the board, see fit, that we will do a budget adjustment.
All right, so we can, at least get the legal, the final legal on it. Any other,
Yeah, can we do that, and then let me know when that line item was added into the budget? When was the first year was added in as part of the budget line item?
thank you.
Can you make a comment?
Yes.
You know, I'm just looking at this, to me, Mrs. NY is a responsible adult. She understands policies, she understands exactly what was stated. Why, and I do respect what her wanting to handle this on her own. I think she understands. I think she has done her homework very diligently. But I think what is going on here, why are we trying to twist her arm to say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that? She's already made a decision. She has other resources that she can get funds from, and she knows this. So I am telling you now, I am not going to support something that I know that is wrong. Because I know exactly what was said in the training. I am not going to be handcuffed because of this reason. And I'm just using that word because that's the word or phrase that was used in the training. And they were very adamant about that. If you want to be handcuffed, go ahead and go against this because these funds are used for blighted areas in some areas and for community redevelopment. Now, there's nothing wrong if we had like I had mentioned before, you can use some incremental funds for those purposes. But I just don't understand why we just trying to go overboard to try to find funds. We just got into a snap last week about the Juneteenth. Now we're trying to find funds to do this rather than fixing up people's houses that needs to be repaired and do some things that we need to do in order to help our citizens.
So, Director, can we get a Florida statute one more time?
While you're waiting for that, there is only one person certified in the town, CRA, and that's me. So, although I understand that you went to one meeting, I've gone to all of them. So I'm quite aware of the CRA statutes. So I've had several conversations. That's why I know the background of some of these, of the issues they've been having with CRA. And the most prudent thing that we can do before we turn away a citizen that is doing just what blighted areas need, and you've been doing it for 30-something odd years, and we've given pennies. If the board decides no, it decides no, but let it decide no based on documentation, not a preordained or a pre-established position. So that is why I'm saying we give the due diligence just as we would anyone else. So that is why I'm asking that we go ahead and do the steps. And that is why I said, if after knowing the final outcome in regards to best practices and any newer information, then you make a decision. So no arm has been twisted, but due diligence has been had. Thank you, Mrs. Cynthia. Is there anyone else have anything to say? All right, next item on the agenda, is there anyone else for public participation?
Yes, we have one. Louis Dean Cummings.
Before we go to that next one, Ms. Director, do you have that Florida statute?
Here, yes, I'm sorry. 163.370.
163.370?
Yes.
My name is Louisine Cummings, 421 Campus Drive. I am a very concerned citizen of the town of Eville. It hurts me to hear that the town never did anything for the Zorro Festival. My thing is, and I wish I had 20 or 30 more residents like me to come up and speak about what is going on in the town of Eville. I am very disturbed to see 2 weeks before something, you're going to present something to try to get something from the town. I really think that is very unfair, very, very unfair. And we got to work out something here because I get tired of coming in, just sitting here with this negative. And I mean, you don't wait the last minute to come and ask for something from the town. And this should have been somewhere brought up way last year if you're going to need some money for something. I'm very disappointed, you all. I am very hurt and disappointed to hear over and over the town never did anything for the Zurich Festival. Thank you.
We have no more.
All right. Next, thank you, Ms. Cummings. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes, consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, next is board discussion of the monthly financial report. Assuming that everyone has had an opportunity to review, do you have any questions for the director or Ms. Bonds?
So these numbers are current as of when?
These numbers are current as of last Tuesday. So that was
had some questions in the beginning.
Hesitant second.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
are you finished, Director James,
She know that,
Director Graham?
Yeah, I have a difficult time trying to follow the accuracy of the account balance. And I did explain this to Mrs. Bond to look more into this. On the actual expenditures, $444,000, but the budget is $150,000. So it left an account balance of $132. I just don't see, and also the next line item was the $200,000 for the TIF, with the expenditures of $750,000 in the account balance. So I was just trying to figure out the justification for those numbers being so high, but it doesn't balance in that column.
So I have Ms. Gibson here to explain that for you.
Oh, she's here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't see you right there. Hi, how are you?
All right. Good evening, CRA board members, directors, and residents. Yeah, I'm here. Miss Nicole asked me. So where you see the expenditures for 2023, where it says Orange County and then it says the town TIF, the town has to put in their portion of the CRA money, and then after they put in their portion, there's a rebate. So in that line there, that's the rebate check that was presented back to the town, and the other presented back to Orange County. They give us a formula. And so on the end where you see the 132, 529.67, and the 217, 971.34. If you add those two together, it's 350,500, round off with 1. That's the revenue that's supposed to be in the CRA. So each 5 year, the next 5 years, CRA revenue is supposed to be $350,000, which a total come from the town, and a portion will come from the county to make their revenue $350,000.
Okay.
So there's a document where the town put their money in, and then we have to rebate ourselves back, and then rebate the county back.
So, yeah, well, we can stay in this section for a second here before we go down. So I understand we're supposed to get 350,000. So why did we put the expenditure in at 444,162.33? Why did we do that?
That's the total the total that the county gave that the town had to put in, and then the county put in the town. And then there is a formula where that.
So that's not actual expenditure then, right?
Well, I think her column here, that's part of her revenue. It should have had the slash said expenditure / revenue, because if you see up at top part there where it says CR revenue, where it says from, if you see in the first column where it says department, count name.
So let's say Avalon is in. So you got Avalon at 444,162.33. That's what we got from the county.
Yes,
And the balance in that now is only 132,529.
after you rebate yourself, I guess, because the budget is only $350,000.
So I guess the confusion comes in is the way this is formatted.
Well,
Because it should have just said revenues at the top, and then it should have been another line item down up under expenditures, and then we'll be able to subtract from that. Because if we took in 444,162, so you said, and then we subtract 132, that's how much we expended back to the county?
Yes.
So if I take,
So it's an agreement. So if you take it here,
It's not a calculation that you make, it's only, that's the amount. This is what the county gives, it's from your March.
I
So that's
get that, Chair,
444.
but if someone just picks up this one sheet of paper without that other documentation, this becomes quite confusing on revenues.
she doesn't attach it, but yeah, it's attached to it. In order for them to cut the check back to the CRA, they had a copy of this documentation from the county. The county sent it to them and the county sent it to the town.
We can reformat, this document. I can get with, Ms. Gibson.
So you got your revenues up top and then your expenditure down to the bottom.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
I couldn't hear you.
No, I say on the sheet there, you have your revenues up to the top and your expenditures down to the bottom. So you just need to make another line. We'll get together
Okay.
and show your total.
So we can reformat that to where it's clear for the board to understand where we are.
And if you need, I don't send this, you probably don't recall, but I don't send this to you before showing you what the TIF payment was going to be. And so it's a legal document where that we have to rebate ourselves back. We came to agreement each year, each 5 years, we'll add $50,000. We started out at $200,000. 5 years passed, then we went to $250, then went $300, now we're at $350,000. And that's the budget that we agreed with in the contract where that we will do a rebate back to each other.
All right, so let's look at the executive director. We spent no money as executive director this year,
No.
No.
so how's Ms. Bonds getting paid?
Ms. Bonds is in the contractual line where that we got to do a budget amendment to move. In the beginning, when the budget was presented, the contractual line was for Ms. Bonds.
So are we allowed to spend money before the budget amendment is done?
You can do your budget amendment anytime during the year.
So it's okay to go negative and then do a budget amendment? That's what you're telling me?
Yes,
I didn't hear it.
yes.
Okay.
And she's bringing one back. We was waiting, but I see that Ms. Bond was extended.
Okay. The CR admin assistant, is that a contractual also?
The CRA administrator?
Yes, admin assistant.
No, she's run through payroll.
Okay. Then go down to fringe benefits for me, where it says FICA taxes and all that. No FICA taxes have been taken out.
No.
So how is,
For who? No.
The admin assistant.
for the admin assistant?
Yes,
If the admin assistant is an actual employee and we're taking out taxes, that means something should have came off of that line.
Right. I get with her, because we just gave her her calculation of what need to be come out of there. But yeah, the system, the only one that's run through payroll is the administrative assistant.
I get that, Ms. Gibson, but
So
you telling me as of last Tuesday, this was updated, that person has made $2,145.20. We ever taken no taxes out?
We took in taxes out, yes.
So it's not reflecting in this, so this document is not accurate.
Without that,
It's probably, it's sitting on the town side.
no. When we come to finance, what we do is we give her what she spent, like her bills, we give her her fund where it came out. So when the payroll come out on there, it just shows the total amount, so we can give her a copy of the breakdown. We don't give her a copy of the whole payroll that come out of there.
So this 214520 is everything. It just needs to be broken out.
Yes. Yes.
So we can just,
She can have that correct and give y'all that tomorrow.
all right.
Rental relief and leases are showing a negative 2,518. How is that?
Because the budget,
10,000, but we had 4,518.76. And according to this one, we can run negative, and then we just do a budget amendment.
In the budget memo, will clear that up. Where you saw that, where that the rental lease was the truck payment. So now that the code enforcement's over here now, the code enforcement, the town is picking up the code enforcement truck, and the CRA is picking up the other truck that's in there.
And I think once we get a financial coordinator, it'll help, because then their whole focus will be on the CRA finance and get it off your back and get it off your back, and then it'll cut down.
And another reason why I went over too, that since there was nobody over there, bills was getting behind. We got a couple bills that was behind with the, with some payments and stuff.
All right, we'll get it balanced out.
Yes. So we noticed that, yes.
And then can you provide me documentation on whatever statute is that says that we can go negative on the line item and then do budget amendment? I want that to be please.
Sure.
All right, next item, bylaws. For the TOCRA. We can go section by section. Attorney.
Go to Article 1 that just lays out the where the definitions would come from for the Community Redevelopment Agency outlined for the bylaws, and that comes from Section 163.340. If any questions with any other portion of the sections, let me know. We can just go through it real quickly. Article 2 is just the general provisions establishing the name of the TOCRA, Town of Greenville Community Redevelopment Agency. Paragraph 2.2 outlines the purpose and objectives. Section 2.3 outlines the members and the terms that the members will serve. These sections under general primarily came from prior bylaws and just basically use this as a framework to lay this out. So it really are no changes to the general section of it. But if you have any questions as to anything here in the general portions of it, I can respond to that.
I did have a statement for 2.3 at the very end,
Yes, ma'am.
where it says each board member shall hold office until his or her successor has been appointed. I just would like for it to be added if they continue to meet our qualifications to
Yes,
be on the
ma'am.
board.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, as they move out of town or state, they don't.
Just continuing along those lines, 2.4 talks about the compensation, basically that the members serve without compensation, but they can be reimbursed. That they can be reimbursed for expenses related to their duties as a member. The operations section just outlines what the operations of the agency, what those things are, that they shall be lawful and follow the provisions of the statute. 2.6 outlines where and how records will be kept and maintained. I believe that is somewhat new, stemming from some prior discussion about maintaining records on behalf of the TOCRA. The principal office is to be determined by the TOCRA within the town of Greenville. That's just basically another provision that was taken from prior bylaws.
Question.
Yes, sir.
On members and terms, if we can go back to that one real quick.
Yes, sir.
2.1 of the CRA bylaws states that any person may be appointed to the agency board if he or she resides or engaged in business, which means a business practicing a professional performing a service or compensation, or serving as an officer or director of a corporation. It says here that town council +2, one appointed member shall be nominated for appointment by Orange County and one by the town council. So we eliminating that particular section, and it's 2.3, guys. So we're able to nominate anybody, I guess, from the town council side without being a member or engaged. I'm asking.
To remain consistent, that language should be in there, and it's in there for a specific purpose, because there's certain criteria of individuals that you want to be placed on this board. So to remain consistent, that should be replaced.
Right. Just a quick question. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
What was wrong with 2017 bylaws? I can understand maybe adding some difference, something to enhance it or make it better, or to define certain areas, but like just with the member part right there, if we pass these, then, the town council can, according to this, appoint anyone. you know, but the old 2017 says it's a person that is nominated has to work, have a business in the town, doing something that's going to have a stake, per se, in being on the CRA board and not just have the town nominated. Yeah, I'm just asking, you know, because I thought we would just take these in because they've worked. And maybe you can add something to help, you know, but these have worked over the years, and I was just wondering why it's such a big change. I'm just asking.
Well, and Vice Chair, I just want to say I appreciate that, because as the drafter of the 2017 bylaws, there's not a whole lot of change that I would have made. I think that there were some questions with regards to some issues before that I think have started working themselves out, that certain provisions were put in there as an abundance of caution, but I agree the 2017 bylaws, I believe, were sufficient.
Okay, well, I'm just bringing that up because if we pass these right now, then there's no criteria or no qualifications for someone that the board nominates.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
I'm just asking, you know, to try to.
Actually,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. 'cause I
Actually,
don't-
it is, if you go to the very first line, it's just not spelled out like 2017,
Okay.
which makes it easier to follow. But if the part 3, chapter 163 is broken out and that's stated on 2017. On the one just drafted in the very beginning, it says in accordance with section 163.3571A and C. And I think that's where it spells out who can be on the,
Okay, I'm
you see what I mean?
keep going. Yeah, I'm gonna look at it.
And I can do it because I have right here. I can just say
But
where we're from.
2017 spells it out. It's easier than just follow. But should it change, then either way, you still need to refer back to the Florida statute. Because if the statute's changed, then it should automatically update our bylaws.
So it's not as specific in the statute, 163.3571A, just basically says, as an alternative to the appointment of not fewer than 5 members or more than 7 members of the agency, the governing body may, at the time of the adoption of the resolution under section 163.355 or at any time thereafter by adoption of a resolution, declare itself to be an agency in which case all rights, powers, duties, privileges, and immunities vested by this part in an agency will be vested in the governing body of the county or municipality, subject to all responsibilities and liabilities imposed or incurred. And Part C of that states the governing body, which consists of 5 members, may appoint 2 additional persons to act as members of the Community Redevelopment Agency. The terms of office of the additional members shall be 4 years, except that the first person appointed shall initially serve a term of 2 years. Persons appointed under this section are subject to all provisions of this part relating to appointed members of a community redevelopment agency. So it's not as specific, and that specificity comes from when the CRA was initially formulated with what the county, who the county could appoint, more so individuals who are residents as opposed to who the who the town could appoint, which were business members. So I understand, and I will appropriately make that correction.
Because of the problem we had before, having council appoint a person there was such a lot. Well, they're not a business person, so you know what I'm saying. I'm just trying to alleviate that just from the experience I've had before dealing with that particular issue.
So the two corrections to Part 3 is to specify who can be appointed by the town, and also with regards to the last sentence, per the chair, so long as that individual remains qualified, and I'll make the language appropriate. Any questions, any further questions about Article 2? Article 3, officers and employees, 3.1 outlines who the officers of the Community Redevelopment Agency are, which essentially are the chair and the vice chair. And it lays out when the appointments for the chair and the vice chair takes place and by whom that is to be completed by, which is the town council. It outlines in 3.2 the obligations or the duties of the chair. 3.3 outlines the role and responsibilities of the vice chair in the absence of the chair. 3.4 discusses.
Wait, 3.3. The only thing I added, sometimes just for definitions, you know, we have absence, disqualification, disability, especially disability, that's all different kinds of levels. So just a definition for this sake, what do you mean by disability? Just be added for definitions.
Okay, yes, ma'am. With regards to 3.4, it outlines the executive director, the role of the executive director, how the executive director is appointed to the TOPR. 3.41, the subsection of 3.4, the responsibilities of the executive director. And I just want to pause right here because I know that there have been some questions with regards to the role of the executive director. I believe I have properly outlined it as the board has wished and as Ms. Bonds and other executive directors have performed in those duties. And so I just want to pause for a moment to see if there are any additional questions or input with regards to the responsibility of the executive director.
I think my main point when it comes down to, and with the wording of it, this whole budget thing for the executive director, do we need to indicate that it needs to be in unison with the towns? Because, you know, different people have said different things, but we've heard that it should be in unity with the town's budget process.
Yes, sir. So in a later portion of the bylaws, it does indicate as to when the budget should be submitted and how it should be submitted.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I was saying, should it be in that part too, or just your thoughts? So, I mean, as Director Craig said, the JD, you got the JD.
Just in my perspective, when we're talking about this responsibility of the executive director versus the timing of a budget, I think that this is the appropriate place just to outline her responsibilities, and the appropriate place to outline when the budget should be and how the budget should be submitted is in the proper location.
Okay.
Purchasing orders, I know that there was some discussion about that, and this basically returns it back to where it was, I want to say prior to 2020, but I know that there was some discussion about purchase orders, so I just want to make sure, just want to see if there are any questions or any input with regards to purchase orders.
The only thing I didn't see a need for that section if you're going to follow. A couple of places in here it talks about following the town's policies and procedures. So that's going to be procurement and all that when it comes to finance. So I didn't see a need for that. And the other thing is purchase order for $500 for if the executive director is going to work just like the chief administrative officer for the town, it just seems like, you know, even as mayor, you sign off of up to $2,000. It just seems like there should be another level, because if that's the case, $500, you're gonna have a meeting for everything that's paid. That's not feasible to me. So, I mean,
I concur.
if we're going to follow the town's policy, we follow the town's policy. I would say, you know, add a next level. If it's $500 for the executive director, and then the chair up to $2,000, just like it would be over here. I mean, on the town.
But on the town side, isn't the director's $500?
That's what I'm
The
saying, at
department
another
head.
level. This doesn't have another level though.
But I'm saying on the town side, isn't the department head $500?
I think it's like 500, and then you have to get a sign off on something, yes.
And as I said, I took this, made the language somewhat consistent with what I've seen on the, I didn't want to have a disparity in how things are done with the CRA versus the town. So that's why I got this language from, but I mean, it can be adjusted as the board sees fit.
And again, if the town policy changes, this will automatically
change
with it if we don't put anything in there, if we know that we have to follow the town's policy as well. I was just thinking about another level of sign off.
And there is a place where it is discussed that the town's procedure will be followed. So it's here, but it doesn't have to be here.
I agree with what the chair is saying, only in the aspect, well, specifically in the aspect of the board approval if things are put on hold, we're already complaining about the budget. If things are put on hold to the third Thursday of every month, or we have to poll to see who's available for a special session, et cetera, if we have the anticipation or the expectation that things are done in decency and in order, then I believe we either need to provide some additional assistance, like the chair is saying, another level of signage or approval, or keep it completely concurrent with the town side, specifically for the purpose of doing business. If the executive director is responsible for the day-to-day operations, and you could speak better to what expenditures might run you over that 500, then just for the sake of seamless operation, it would seem that unless there's another level, and I hear very loudly what Director Daniels is saying as far as the department heads, but and again, if there is no second level, third level, et cetera, on this side, then I could see how that could cause some delay or some potential confusion.
So what recommendation would you give? What amount?
I would recommend that it is concurrent with the town side. I like the $2,000 idea that the mayor has, and if that's not the wishes of the board, then I would suggest that we designate someone else as a second level of approval that the board might be comfortable with, but considering that, who would you put in that position would be my next question. If we go to another level of authority, I off the top of my head, I can't think of somebody who I would be comfortable, that's not sitting on this board currently, that could do that sign off, that we would be comfortable as a board, that, I'm okay with Joe Schmo giving authority, or, one of the appointed members or one of the members of the town council. If you can't raise that, then we need to realistically find somebody who can assist her with that.
How much does the CEO allow to sign off on the town side?
Right now I'm looking at the actual policies and procedures from the CRA, and the executive director, it says is authorized to sign checks up to $2,000 each. Any check over $2,000 requires the approval of the board of directors and a dual signature.
But how? Okay, you said policy procedures, but if the bylaws, even the old bylaws, gave up to a certain amount, then the policy procedures can't supersede the bylaws.
That's my point. So, but I have to check to see what authority the CAO have to
Right, but I'm
assign
saying, you saying, and those policies from the CRA, you saying right now, currently they have up to 2,000.
up to 2,000. Now,
But that wasn't the case in the bylaws, so that policy will be obsolete. It wouldn't be able to happen because that means it's superseding the overall body of the bylaws.
But in the 2017 bylaws, I don't think it had an amount. It didn't have that at all. That's what I'm saying. If it just flows concurrent with the towns, then whatever that is, the executive director would be the equivalent of the CAO, and then the chair would be the equivalent of the mayor. So I'm saying whatever those sign-offs are currently in the town's finance policies and procedures, then that's what we follow.
Yeah, and then I would have a problem to your question. Then I would say the CEO should be the one that, because that person is here constantly, and if something happens,
And
like
then
the bond says, the air conditioner is out over there now, then that CEO can sign off up to that amount, and then it
I
goes from there.
concur. I like that
The
suggestion.
CAO is not. That's,
What you about to say?
I mean, it really should be the chair. I don't care who the chair is. It should be the chair. If you want the CAO to look at, because the CAO is not the CRA. It's not in the CRA. The CAO is on the town side. You have the chair and you have the executive director on the CRA side.
But with an interlocal agreement, couldn't that take place?
But why does it have to? If there's any, I can understand if the current chair worked across in another whole city or something, but if I can pop over, I mean, that's just a phone call. I don't see that as an issue.
It does say that in the responsibilities as far as the chair is concerned. I completely overlooked that. I apologize. It does say that they shall execute instruments in the name of the TOCRA, so that would be a legitimate suggestion, in my opinion.
So,
The CAO would technically be on the town side. You want to keep it clean.
so the question I guess would be, 500 would not be an adequate amount. This board, in looking at these bylaws, can adjust this amount to either match what is said in the policies and procedures right now. But if you don't match what's in the policies and procedures right now, then you need to change or address your policies and procedures, because then it would be out of sync with your bylaws. So this board can say tonight, can discuss tonight, whether or not you want to increase the amount to $2,000 with the input, obviously, of the executive director as to a comfortable amount, and let the board determine if that's something that the board is comfortable with. And then anything over that 2,000, as per what the policy says, they go to the next level for approval. But the board should, in my opinion, reconcile the differences right now in what's in the bylaws and what's in that policy.
I would like to ask the executive director, can you think of how many times that you've been in your position that you've had an expenditure that exceeded 500?
Can you give
at
her the
one
mic?
time?
Because she has a very
I'm
soft
sorry.
voice. You have a very soft voice.
So monthly, our lease for the trucks are $1,600. So monthly there is where,
That's outside of the contract.
Yeah.
That's already, so that wouldn't,
That's
the
already-
region already would have approved
Yeah.
that, so that's fine.
So, the last thing that was just done was, in May, the AC, was fixed, and that was, 18. So it would just depend on things, what's going on. That would be, out of our control, that's not what. Thank you.
And so what the chair is saying, instead of going over here, then if it's anything over too many, just have the executive director get with the chair, say, I got you about the money, transition approval, keep it separate. And, okay.
Yes, sir.
So we would, but if that is different than the town, because I don't know what those sign-off authorities are, the levels, then we need to adjust 3.4.1 to show an exception as shown in the bylaws.
4.1 or 4.2?
Well, if you go to 3.
I'm sorry, 3.4.
I'm sorry, it's actually the
3.42.
2.5.
Oh,
It's 2.5 where it says that the town, that the Tocqueville board will follow the town of Eatonville policies and procedures.
yes, ma'am.
Unless, or, whatever the verbiage that says, whereas stated differently here in the policy, in the bylaws.
Right, yes, ma'am.
Except as stated here in the bylaws or something like that, if it's different.
But the CRA has to follow the procurement of the town.
That's procurement, but it's not necessarily the procedures. The procurement is how you get the services, but we're talking about sign up, that would be a procedure. Am I wrong?
No.
The procurement is how you get the services. But the sign up, we can establish that here in the bylaws, just in case it does change or it is different.
So y'all saying it needs to be more than 500. So what is the number?
I mean, I honestly think 2,000 is, yeah, even that is low, but we don't have that much coming through. That's,
I don't have a problem with 2,000.
And then that helps to reconcile the difference with the
Policies
policy.
that,
right.
which
So-
means we need to look at the policies out and we're gonna this to make sure they're in alignment with the bylaws.
Well, at least you know this one portion is in line with the.
Right.
Well, that 2,000 is already in the CRA, that's why I saw it just then.
Okay, we can move on to 2.5, basically outlines who the secretary of the TOCRA is. I don't believe that there are any questions on that. 3.6 establishes who the treasurer is for the TOCRA. I'm not certain if there is any question with that.
Yeah, except if it makes a mention of interlocal agreement, all that has to be an interlocal agreement.
Yes, ma'am. The only real change to 3.7, and this board can remove it if it so wishes, is the section, and I apologize, 3.7 is general counsel and special counsel. The only addition was as to special counsel. It outlines who the special counsel will be or can be if necessary or called upon by this board. That's only was just put in there just based on the recent procedure or process that's being undertaken at this juncture. But it doesn't have to be there. It was just put in there just as an abundance of caution, and hopefully it never happens again. But just in case it does happen again, there's a process for determining special counsel. But again, that is not something that has to be there. But I put it in there for the board to consider and tell me if you want it or not.
Okay.
No,
Vice Chair.
I'm good.
I had made that same observation, because if the director's in charge of the day-to-day, and they're the ones that, the hiring and all of that, then that should be a part of the procurement policy process that the executive director goes through. I think the general counsel should just be the general counsel. Anything after that should go through the executive director through the procurement policy. That's part of the day-to-day.
Yeah, or if the board calls us, and that's
Or the board. Or special counsel.
because this,
Yeah, well, through a procurement policy is what I mean.
So, I mean, as I said, it's no reason for it to be there, but because of the current events, I put it in there. So, but if the board says we're fine with handling it the way that it was handled last time, I can remove that portion. 3.8 discusses employees, agents, and consultants. I don't believe that there are any questions with that. That's just outlines what the policy has been. Moving on to Article 4, meetings. It discusses regular meetings, where the meetings are to be held, what the notice, not notice just yet, but just talks about what public meetings are, which I'm sure that this board is fully aware of. 4.1.
Wait, 4.1?
Yes, ma'am.
The only thing I'm asking everyone to consider, I don't see where we need monthly meetings. I mean, if it's something like just discussion items, if it's 1 or 2 discussion items, I don't see any reason why we have to meet every month. So we should consider meeting quarterly. And then if there's something pressing in between there, then have, call a meeting. But meeting monthly, it's almost,
I have to do a little pushback on that. I think right now, in the level that we are right now, and looking going forward, if we wait quarterly, we could be spiraling out of control, and before you know, we'll be bankrupt and everything because we don't know what's been happening. So I think, and then you asking somebody if I have something on my calendar saying, hey, the third Thursday we're gonna meet for CRA, it's locked in. But then if you saying once a quarter, and then you try to spring something upon it, it's gonna be hard to get people. I think you got people that's not full-time, working with time, I think it's gonna be hard to get people to put that together. That's just my
I would like to add that for situations like what we encountered earlier, where there seemed to be some sort of miscommunication regarding how soon someone should present something to the board, I think if we leave too much space between meetings, it could open a door for missed opportunities potentially. I do agree that we do seem to have pretty full meetings. So it seems like the time is being well spent to a certain degree. But I think time management is also something that we should consider. If it's not on the agenda, we should not waste time talking about it. And then if it's something that's just workshop type, then maybe, I don't know if we have that authority to switch it over from a regular meeting to a workshop style discussion meeting or whatnot. Yeah, I don't know what authorities we may or may not have, but I do like the idea, maybe sometimes I miss y'all, I do like the idea of coming once a month me personally, I don't know if anybody else has any input.
Can we move it to the Thursday after the second Tuesday, the third? what's the
I
third?
think we
The
just,
Thursday following the
Tuesday,
second
like
council
it used to
meeting?
be. It was after that second
Council meeting?
council meeting.
So that would be the, would that still,
The second.
no, because that would still be the,
The first, that'd be the first.
Sometimes it'll be the third, sometimes it'll be the second,
Yeah,
but
you're
at least
right.
we'll know that is the Tuesday after,
Thursday
It's the
following
meeting
the
after the-
second council meeting,
after the Thursday following the
third Tuesday of, I know where
That,
you're going.
you know, whatever that wording used to be, it was in one of our,
Mayor?
I think before, I think it was on the third Tuesday.
it was Thursday,
Because we
Thursday
had
following
the
the
council
Thursday.
meeting on Tuesday, because we would meet at 5:30.
Mhm.
It was all done on one day.
Mhm.
Oh, that's-
CRA, council meeting.
Which was
that's
tight,
good.
because when we had those lengthy meetings,
Right.
that would cut into you all's
I mean, you have.
workshop opportunities as well as council meetings, so I understand why we moved it from,
Yeah, I'm not saying, I was saying that, I was like, maybe that week, you know, that, whatever the third Tuesday is, then it's the Thursday after that, or something like that, not on the same.
you know, I understand, and that actually just happened in one of the that might have been April or May, where the third Thursday did not line up with the Tuesday, with the Thursday following the
This
third.
month.
Was that this month?
That's
Yeah,
this month.
okay.
Yeah, it's too,
We didn't have a
that's fine.
council meeting on Tuesday.
But we have, yeah, okay, I understand, I like that idea
I
as
mean,
well.
you can, if we're gonna go Monday, I guess I'm not going Tuesday, what Thursday, but yes. you
Just
guys-
wanted to bring to your attention, you mentioned about the second Thursday, that is our planning and zoning. So that would be a conflict.
It should be the third, I was trying to say Tuesday, the second Tuesday that we meet, not,
Also, you want to change it to Tuesday instead of Thursday?
no.
No,
I
she
was
wanted to
saying
meet
like
on the Thursday following the
That
third
third
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
not specifically the third Thursday of the month.
That can handle conflict with the board.
Well, yeah,
She's on the second Thursday, right?
I'm sorry?
You meet the second Thursday in every month?
Yes, for the planning and zoning. And the way that we're set up now, we fall on the third Thursday, with the exception of those months that,
And that's fine, let's just keep it like it is.
when it starts
Keep it
early.
like it is, it's just gonna get too complicated as time goes on. And if we need to call another meeting for whatever reason, we can do that. So let's keep it simple. I like it the way it is now.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to 4.2, just discusses special meetings and how or the process for calling a special meeting. I don't know if there are any questions on that. This takes us it moves it back to where it was in 2017 as well.
The 4.2, it says, the chair, oh, never mind, never mind.
And then when
I didn't see the word chair earlier, because I was gonna add that, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Should be 3 members instead of 2? That's what's in the whole special meeting. Special meetings, which must be limited to the subject specified on the agenda, may be called by any 3 board members, the chair or executive director upon 72-hour notice to the board and public. So we got a reasonable time, we have to specify, I'm just asking.
3.
you said 3, you said 3?
So the chair, any 3 members, or the executive director is what we're going with? Okay.
So 3, okay.
And are we keeping a reasonable time, or are we gonna set it for 72? Just asking.
Definition.
I think we
72 hours.
I think we put 72 hours.
.3 emergency meetings discusses who can call an emergency meeting, which is the chair or the executive director, and the time period it can be called within a 24-hour period of time. Notice of meetings, it talks about the notice of meetings.
Oh, wait, the emergency meetings, it was in one of the other bylaws that need to identify it as an emergency. Like, that's one of the order of businesses, one of the items that it needs to be identified as an emergency.
4.4, notice of meetings, just talks about when regular meetings should be noticed as well as special meetings, how the notices should go out, different things of that nature. Any questions on that?
Yes, on there it says, unless a waiver of notice is obtained from all board members. If it was the situation like now, if it's something that's going to be voted on, the public needs to know.
Right.
So maybe that needs to be taken out.
So, okay,
Right?
either to
If
say
that's,
no.
unless I'm misinterpreting.
Or either that, it should say all non-voting matters. That should be a specification.
Where are we saying that at now?
4.4,
What's the change?
seventh line, down 4.4.
Unless what is it? What notice is-
So we changed the waiver of notice?
Well, waiver of notice for non-voting matters.
Okay.
Four point five just basically outlines where the meetings take place. 4.6 outlines what a quorum, what establishes a quorum.
Do we need to define eligible?
Mhm.
Board members present and eligible to vote. Is that definition somewhere? Or is that something that needs to be defined?
Again, that was abundance of caution based on a separate situation. It doesn't have to be there because I think that this board understands. So it doesn't have to be there. As I said, I normally put language in and I scale it down as needed. So.
So that would have been changed if we had like alternates, and we were able to have alternates come in and our place, and they can come sit, but they couldn't necessarily vote or whatever.
So we're not adding the definition? No.
No, but just take out board members present to vote on certain matters. So just take out ineligible.
Can I read 5.4 to old? I know you.
No.
The quorum, the presence of a majority of the board members should constitute a quorum for a meeting purpose. If a quorum is not present, the chair may reschedule the meeting with notice to be given to each absent board member. So, should we take out the quorum for majority, or are you good? The majority, the board covers if we have alternates and stuff here, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, just because of how the numbers.
Okay, I got you, thank you.
4.7, voting rights. Each board member shall be entitled to one vote. Proxy votes and absentee ballots shall not be allowed. Recess and continued meetings, just discussing what recess or continued meetings are and what is to be done with regards to recess or continued meetings. The rule of order discusses that Robert Rules of Order shall apply to meetings.
Wait,
And that was,
the rules of order, Robert Rules of Order is like this big. Can we just put the language in here that we usually use? You know what I mean?
but I don't think it's identified on the town side what rules of order mean.
It's some in the statutes, but I think we kind of know what we usually, or even put it in here or skip.
And I apologize, what it says about rules of order, all meetings shall be conducted in accordance with the procedures approved and utilized by the town council of the town of Eatonville provided. However, in the absence of any applicable procedures of the town council, the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order revised shall apply. So that is just in case, so.
Good luck. Good luck. I'm sorry, Vice Chair.
And we have on the town side adopted Robert Rules of Order in previous administrations, I think, in 2 administrations, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So we have approved those. It's a matter of following them and adhering to them and enforcing them whenever it presents itself.
Vice Chair, I would like to know which rules we use.
I mean, just allowing, like the chair, having the chair to govern the meeting, or the mayor govern the meeting, and just giving respect and not over talking and stuff, and just being recognized. You know, there's certain rules, not all, but there's certain things that you can follow that we could show.
So you're saying we need to probably look at the abbreviators, as the chair was saying.
I mean,
Because the other one is real
I'm
big.
pretty sure it is, but, you know.
Okay.
And just how votes are taken. You have to get a vote, a second. If there's any questions, you pause to take the question on the motion. So
Okay.
yes, sir.
I have a question on Robert Rules of Order. Can you guys help me out? Is it required under the Robert Rules of Order that we vote? Say if a motion is carried and it's not seconded, does the Robert Rules of Order make you vote? Like say you have to vote? Y'all can help me out with that. Because past practices in the past from former administrations have illustrated that if you don't get a second, then it doesn't pass. But according to our legal now, he's saying that, you have to take a vote, or you got to get a second. You got to take a vote. Just can't be silent. So if we're going to follow Robert Rules of Order, are there moments that you don't get a second, you can just keep going and say, well, we can get a second, we move, or what? Help me out with that one.
Can I piggyback on that question? Because when you're asking that, what I'm wondering is, does Robert's Rules of Order, do they trump a charter, for example, or a set of bylaws? What hierarchy? So Robert takes back seat to.
It's just a procedure, right?
Okay,
To help you
just to
facilitate
piggyback.
your meeting, right?
Because I'm learning.
And how to conduct it in a professional manner.
Right, the core. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so, but now to answer your question, Robert Rules of Order, if you don't have a second, you don't vote. But if you're following the statutory provisions, you vote.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, Robert Rules of Order is a guideline for procedures on how to conduct a meeting.
Okay. So you said if they get a second, then we have to vote by law. But if we don't get a second, then it dies for
For lack of a second. For lack of a second.
second. But if it gets the second, then you have to vote yea or nay.
Agreed.
You can't abstain from voting unless there's a conflict.
And that's what makes sense to me. Like I said, no, if you have to vote.
Right.
And in your silence, it's a yes.
It's a yes.
Do
Right.
we agree to that?
Yeah.
If some people don't vote, in your silence, it's a yes, according to Robert Rules of Order, right?
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't
sound
vote, it's a
is-
yes.
yeah.
It's a yes. So that means you have to either say if you don't say anything, then yes, it's yes. That's how I've always been taught ever since I've been up here.
Four point 10 discusses public participation, which I don't believe there are any questions to that unless. 4.11 discusses agendas, and this takes into account the recent change per resolution as to when agendas are to be prepared and presented to the board.
Okay. I would say, can we add to that? Prime example tonight. And help me out. I'm like, Director Creighton today. By statute, you just got to notice the meeting. You necessarily don't have to post an agenda. So when we had this situation tonight with Ms. NY and Azora, I think we should be allowed to add something to the agenda because you don't never know what's pressing and all that. And I know we had it where it had to be on the agenda and all that. But if something happens or something comes up and it's pertinent in this case, so what we're gonna wait and then call another special meeting?
That's the way the law requires, is that there has to be adequate notice of an issue that is what action is going to be taken. There has to be adequate notice to the public so that the public can come out and speak on it. So that's why you have to have that. So you can't add an action item or a voting item to an agenda
Right.
without proper notice.
I get the voting items, but we've had it where you can't even add a discussion item on it, and I think that's unfair. So if we have a discussion item, if it's a non-voting thing, I get it. If we have to make a decision on it, it needs to be posted and all that. But if I wanted to add in that Snoopy was coming to town and we're gonna have a discussion on, we should be able to have that discussion right now compared to no, it ain't on the agenda.
Well, I think adding items as discussion items, in my perspective, will be up to the chair. Now, the issue of discussing something that's taking place will come in the report of a director. So in your report, you can talk about whatever it is you want to discuss in your report. But with regards to adding something specific outside of what a director is going to discuss in their report as a discussion item is is on the chair to make that determination if they want to allow that to go. Well, like even tonight, what was public participation actually ended up
Being
a discussion item at the discretion of the chair. And so it did come in, and that's not an issue at all.
Yeah, and my only thing was I knew that she wanted a vote.
Yeah.
So that was my discussion. It couldn't be, I wasn't even really thinking about discussion item, Vice Chair.
In that situation, what happens if the chair wanted something to be put on and, you know, it's up to her discretion? I thought that if we're doing a discussion item, I think the mayor, I'm sorry, the chair's done it before, says it okay with this board. Is that a procedure that we could do so it's fair across the board so that the chair having the discretion to do that won't, if it's mine, then I can put on the chair, but if it's yours, then no. If we say, hey, how does the board feel about adding this discussion item to that, you take a vote on that, and I think that would be the fairest of the one. Just like they're slightly, they want to talk about.
No. He
No,
gave you kudos.
because I usually do that, though, right?
No,
I wanted not to forget.
He gave you kudos on that one.
Okay.
And I think that is the right thing to do. You know, if the majority say add it on as discussion, but if it's the decision, then we need to wait and post it and do a special meeting or do whatever needs to be done.
I was under the impression that the last two sentences of that paragraph kind of gave the chair that level of authority, and please correct me if I interpreted that incorrectly, but it sounded like that kind of opened up the door for her to give that opportunity for us to add potentially a non-voting item to the agenda. Did I interpret that incorrectly, or could you expound on what exactly those last two sentences of 4.1 mean, or 4.11?
Where it talks about the chair, if there's no objection from the TOCR board members.
Right, may alter the order of business on the agenda.
Right, so if there's an objection from the board members, then the chair cannot do so.
Right, because the next sentence says that if there is an objection made, then a motion is required to move forward with that item?
That's correct.
Okay.
4.10, are we gonna do 3 minutes? You gotta specify, or are we okay with the designated? Did we say 3 minutes? I'm looking for it.
So it doesn't have it in the bylaws. One of the reasons is that there are times where more time or less time is warranted. And so if you put it in the bylaws, you kind of hamstring yourself into that. But if it's left that there's public participation, and let's say, and I don't know if it ever happens, but I know that there have been meetings where you have 100 people that come to a meeting. You don't want to give every person 3 minutes. You may say, okay, for the purposes of tonight, each person gets 2 minutes. You may have a meeting where you have a few people and it's an important issue, and you may say, okay, you get 4 minutes. So I just left it as public participation, and the chair and the board makes the determination as well. But right now, it's strictly stated as 3 minutes on the agenda.
So, and of course, in a sense, I'm being like you guys. Doing public participation, if we have a question, is it within protocol for us to be able to ask that person a question like tonight, going back and forth? We can ask them, or should we wait and talk about it in our report? Because if somebody gets to say something, should we engage then, or do we wait?
So typically, if it's public participation and someone has a limited period of time in order to get their issue out, you normally allow them to get that out, and then you discuss it amongst yourselves. Now, obviously, if something does come up and you have a specific question that cannot wait, you can do so, but you have to stop their time and allow them the time period that's allotted for them to get their public participation. But traditionally, well, I shouldn't say traditionally, but typically what you would want to do is allow them to complete and then discuss amongst yourselves after they're done or at the appropriate time within the meeting, because sometimes public participation is related to something that's happening later. And it may be more appropriate to discuss it once you get to the part of where you're going to vote or have a deeper discussion.
And I heard what you said regarding not restricting ourselves within the bylaws with an allotted amount of time, but can we also discuss yielding time? Like for those meetings where there are 100 members, if I don't want to use all 2 of my minutes, I can yield a minute. Do we need to add that in? Do we need to specify that the way that we do the 3 minutes on the agenda maybe? Or in the event that there is a larger scale meeting, something of that nature? I know we've had that on the other side, on the council side, where that was warranted but not necessarily mandated.
Right.
Is that something that, I know it's not necessarily something that we have to put in the bylaws, but just as far as policy or procedure,
We can put a disclaimer on the.
like a disclaimer,
Agenda.
that we can yield, that time to be.
Time, yeah.
And I would say-
On Tuesday.
And I would say you would want to put that in the agenda, not in the bylaw, because at some point in time, someone may come in and question, what's a large enough number for someone to yield their time? So you do it on a case-by-case basis, once you see what you have in front of you.
And a lot of times when they yield, like if it was 3 minutes, you're not yielding them an additional 3 minutes. You may yield it to have 1 minute per person. So if I yield my time, you now get 4 minutes, you get 5, because they're not. You'll have somebody that'll just sit there and filibuster the whole way through it and try to hold it down. So. Okay.
What number are we on?
4.12.
Who's on 4.11 this minute?
On 4.11 also, just to make certain that we keep the lines, this came up before, who prepares the agenda, who puts things on the agenda, how's it placed on the agenda. There was some verbiage in another one to make it clear whose responsibility it was to set the agenda. I understand that the board can submit things to be placed on the agenda, but just verbiage there, that way we keep the.
Well, the director would make the agenda, but I think any board member should be allowed to put stuff on the agenda.
And I agree that, but that verbiage was in a bylaws. It was in a.
And I thought it mentioned the clerk was responsible. I might
There was
have.
like preparing it and setting it.
Right.
Preparing is, putting everything in order,
Yeah.
the technical part of it.
Right.
But the setting of it was what goes on the agenda, who do you send it to, you know what I mean?
Right,
Something like
right,
that.
okay.
But Chair, remember we had an issue before that it was at that person's discretion, and I think it's just got to be clear that,
And that's my point.
yeah, that
We cleared that part up.
any member of the TOPA can put something on the agenda, and it has to go, just like on the town side, it has to go on, but I get what you're saying though.
And so, based on that, I would go back to 3.4, executive director, and establish that as a role or responsibility of the executive director
Or designate,
or designee. And I'll
in case that position is vacant, we
Right.
want to put a designee.
I'll correct that as well. 5.1, and basically, Article 5 outlines contracts, execution of instruments, real property acquisition and disposition, and the purchasing procedures. Any questions as to anything in Article 5?
Yeah, the only thing on here, it didn't have the bridges, the MOUs, bridges us to the community, and the interlocal agreement, bridges,
Thought I had that, but okay.
agency to agency.
Understood.
That's 5.1,
Yes.
so it's add language.
Yes.
That's what MOU.
Mhm.
Is it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
wait, you just said 5.1, or were you talking about all of them?
I was talking about
Go
the
ahead, please.
whole section.
Because I had a couple more.
Okay, this one, from the old, sale, lease, disposal, transfer of CRA, real property, or any interest therein shall be consistent with the act and approved by town council.
Yeah, I had that.
The board should strive to obtain market value for the sale or lease of any CRA-owned land, or clearly state for the record the reasons the transaction is below market value. Is that possible to?
Mm-hmm. It's going directly, yeah, that's directly from statute, I got you.
It's from the 2017, so if you need, it's right there.
So update 5.2.
That was-
That's not in this one?
2017.
As well? It's not?
That was in adjustment from 5.2, right?
Or just, I just think that whole, just for the rental property acquisition, that's,
The
yes.
approval, I had that note to approve by town council. And then on 5.3, the purchasing procedures. And I said consistent with the town, because earlier we said they would follow policies and procedures. It says town of Eatonville policies and procedures, just to be consistent with that language.
Article 6, fiscal matters, discusses the fiscal year of the TOCRA, which shall begin October 1st and end September 30th of each year. 6.2 talks about the budget. I believe you talked about that, but this hones in on what the executive director's role is with regards to preparing the annual budget. Accounting practices, this discusses what accounting practices should be used or will be used with regards to the CRA. 6.4 talks about the annual audit. This is the portion that talks about when and at what point in time the audit is to be done. And it's actually, the executive director has a lot of role with that, obviously. There was a specific question I want to make sure someone had about the budget that I want to see here. And I believe it was you, Board Member Daniels. Okay, so I believe 6.2 you're asking about it being a part of the town's budget. Does that 6.2 address the question that you had? Yeah, Board Member.
Me?
Board Member Daniels. I believe you had a question about the inclusion of the TOCRA budget with the towns. I just want to make sure that 6.2 addressed what you were asking about. Okay.
Now, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
Now, my question is that, are you saying we should get them done at the same time? Are we asking that? Because I think that why should we have CRA done at $5 and then the town is done at 5 or 10, you know what I'm saying, there's 15, then we can, if we do them together, make it all $5, $10, you know, just give an example. We do them at the same time, you gotta have that information anyway.
We are planning on doing the budget at the same time.
Okay, great. Just save the money right there. Okay.
That's what
Thank
6.2
you.
And then that would also assist with programming and all that kind of stuff. So then one budget won't be stating that we're doing this and we expect to get money from over here and it's not matching. So like we had an issue with, I think, grant coordinator, whatever, we had to go back and forth with that. We'll be able to suffice it at the same time.
6.5 just talks about the annual report. 6.6 talks about bonding of officers and employees. 6.7
Bond, or is that just extra?
extra. 6.7 talks about maintenance and disbursement of funds. 6.8 talks about the disposal of TOCRA real property. And I want to say, Vice Chair Daniels, that's the language that you were just asking about. But I can place it in the area where you were looking.
Okay. Article 5.2, so should those run together in a sense, since you got run property acquisition and the deposition? That's it.
If it's okay with the board, I will eliminate 5.2 because 5.2 says the same or has the same effect as 6.8.
6.8, right.
And then that way it's not a duplication or repetitive. It's not duplicative or repetitive.
The only thing
What
about.
about acquisition though? If you take out 5.2, it'll take out the acquisition, right?
So should it say acquisition and disposal?
Yeah, and I'll combine the appropriate language.
Combining all, okay.
And I'll take 5.2 out and move to 6.8.
And also for 6.8, explain the guidelines for below market valuations. If there's some sort of guideline for when below market valuations can be accepted, if we know those, we can put examples or something under. That's a consistency.
I can do an IE. This is taken directly from the statute, but I can do an IE. That way there will be an example of how that can be done.
Right.
Okay. 6.9 talks about supervision of accounts. Article 7, just a single paragraph that talks about committees that the TOCRA has the ability to create committees or advisory boards from time to time if it sees fit. Article 8 talks about amendments, and I don't know if anyone has any questions about that. Just basically outlines that the bylaws of the TOPA can be amended and under what type of meeting or what notice provisions are required for that.
For 8 I think if we set the bylaws, leave them alone, and give a date. You know, like right now, it's every year a certain. No, do we have a bylaw renewal or set just like in the charter? It's renewed every 8 years. What is it? Oh wow,
8 years.
8 years. Then we put some sort of amendment schedule for bylaws. Even if we don't want any changes, at least we keep them updated and reviewed versus amendments.
So,
Randomly.
Yes, I think there should be some sort of consistency.
so question, if state law changes, do we have to amend our bylaws after the fact, or even though we know state law won't trump us, then do we have to, what time frame do we have to go back and amend those bylaws? Prime example, we know July 1st coming up. If you're in a commercial district, the new thing with housing that you can build the density as large as the building, that means a lot of municipalities are going to change their rules. So we're going to have to leave some room. And I hear you, man. I mean, maybe it is once a year that we set the time that we go through and do it. But if the law changed with the state, do we need to do it right then, or do we wait till that time?
So typically with any changes with the law, there is an enactment period. And so a good practice would be to make any changes that are applicable to the bylaws before the enactment period takes place. Because you're going to know before, you know, like they'll do it in March, at the end of March, and then July 1st is when it takes account. So you'll want to reconcile any issues before the enactment date is typically what you'll want to do.
But a lot of these are set to the statutes.
That doesn't change. Or that
Right,
hasn't changed.
so if the statutes change, they're already changing automatically, given the verbiage that it's already written in.
That is accurate, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So, because Madam Chair, I'm hearing that you prefer a time period in which we make amendments, like are you saying something like an annual review? Or something like, okay, we'll come back every 5 years, we'll look at the bylaws.
Even 2 years, wherever, 2, 3 years, and we have a set, just like the charter, a set tenure for the
Right.
bylaws.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Because otherwise, we can be amending every month,
Should that
Well, can we just do an annual?
Like an annual review.
Can we just do an annual review? I think that would be
Or
more
vote.
feasible.
Yeah, I mean, amendments accepted annually, we can give a month at least, so if a year from the date of it.
Right, so-
That way it keeps,
So we know come October is new fiscal year, so I would say around audit time and all that, maybe June, you say right now? Yeah, I would say like May, June of every year will be, since we're doing it right now,
right,
I would say June of every year will be the time that we go through and do amendments to it.
So what I can do is for 8.1 state that the bylaws of the TOPRA shall be subject to annual review and may be amended at any, and let me just clean it because I don't want to say it that way, but just because what you all are saying is that you want it to be subject to an annual review. And then based on that annual review, it may or may not result in a change to the bylaws.
but just at least a review.
Right, but just a review. Okay, I got you.
It might be good to schedule it around budget time, because if anything needs to be updated, that otherwise would restrict doing something in the budget, in the work program.
But we still leave room that we can amend it at any time, because what about if we go to get into this and we run into hiccups, we don't want to be locked in and we gotta wait till June to do it, right?
Yeah. They don't seem to be that restrictive. If they're gonna follow the law is already gonna give them some flexibility.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So we will always be following the law because it's embedded in the bylaws. And I don't know. And if it's a yearly review, I mean, that should be enough. I'm just trying to stay away from, yes.
How would you
Question.
grade 7.1? In the old, you had some criteria. I didn't know why it wasn't put in this. If you can just check out 217.
I'll take a look.
I'm sorry, yeah, 2015, 7.1, it's the same one, 7.1, part to create, currently living in the town boundaries, homestead in the town, working for financial industry, accounting, banking, working with real estate, housing, construction, business owners in the town boundaries, representative of a major area employer. I don't know why those were put in, but if you can just, and it was just under 7.1 to create, it had to be a reason why they put them in.
Gotcha.
I have a question back in amendments. And if you could verify for me, that Executive Director, our budget is due in what month? I'm drawing a blank.
September.
Yeah, it's
By
about
October.
October 1.
So if we do a review in June, would y'all believe that that would give us ample time? If there was a budget implication, that would give us enough time to kind of get our ducks in a row before the budget was due, if we leave the review in June?
When I said it, the month of September was popping in my head. But if the reviews start June, July, then pass, if you're gonna make any changes, make sure those changes happen by, say, September. So that
Right,
we'll know.
okay, that's fine, okay, thank you.
So 9.1 talks about identification of the tow car, its officers, members, and employees. Didn't know if you have any questions about that. Insurance talks about that the tow car may self-insure or purchase insurance for the purposes of identifying its board members, officers, and employees to the extent of such identification shall be allowed. And that's it. Any questions about that last section? The last article? So the necessary revisions will be made, and I'll provide them to Ms. Bonds and to Ms. King, and then they can provide them to the board for your all's final oversight review, things such as.
And then we'll vote on this next CRA meeting.
All right.
Good job.
Staff report, Ms. Bonds, you have a report?
I do have a couple things that I want to update the board on. Per the board request at the last meeting, the auditors have been given all information pertaining to Mr. Johnson's contract buyout. So once they finish, they will provide their report of their findings on that. Also, an update on the Dixon property. Tomorrow, a 7-day notice to vacate will be given to the property. HR has been instructed to post the CRA director's position for 2 weeks. So that posting will be on the town's website, for the League of Cities and for the Redevelopment Association. The update on the MIT 128 infrastructure grant. As you probably have seen in your town council agendas, there were some policies and procedures that had to be updated according to HUD. So those are on your town side agenda for your approval. So we can move to the next step of placing an RFP for engineering and for administration of the grant. So by the end of next week, the CRA will be moving to town hall. So the notice will be placed on the Facebook and the town's website and the CRA's website, noticing the public that the office will move to town hall. And that is the end of my report.
Can we put that in the water bill also?
Sure.
Because I was some things that everybody's looking at Facebook and all those things. I think the residents and commercial owners get water bills, so we put it in the water bill. I think that would be.
Sure, that's what it is.
On the website.
We consolidate on.
Well, right now,
Air on.
I have no air. I have no AC. And it was doable when, in October. It is not now with 100-degree weather.
I was just asking, I didn't know if we were trying to consolidate, do something with that building, something creative.
There are talks, and that's something that I'll bring to the board once we get there.
That it? That's it? Attorney?
There was a discussion earlier, and I was just kind of looking through this about CRA funds being used for festivals and things like that. I'm going to do some additional research, but I did find an Attorney General's opinion that discussed this issue actually out of Sanford. The specific question that was asked was, did the City of Sanford Community Redevelopment Agency expend funds for festivals or street parties designated to promote tourism and economic development, advertisements such as events, grants for entities which promote tourism and economic development, and grants to nonprofit entities providing socially beneficial programs. There was some discussion that went specifically to the statute, and I am going to review the statute, but in the discussion portion of it, it did state, and this was Attorney General Bill McCullum, I worked under him when I was at the agency for a bit. I would note that the community redevelopment plan and finding the necessity for the Lake Monroe waterfront and downtown Sanford redevelopment area contains a promotional marketing component, recognizing the importance of funding for events, advertising, and marketing to bring people to the redevelopment area. There's a little bit more, but the one thing that that kind of jumped out at me, it states, accordingly, I cannot say that the use of community redevelopment agency funds would be so limited that the expenditure of funds for the promotion of redevelopment area would be prohibited. However, grants, entities which promote tourism and economic development, as well as to nonprofits provide socially beneficial programs, would appear outside the scope of the Community Redevelopment Act. So he's not saying that they can't be used, but he is saying that it's outside of the act. But again, to address it, because I am going to take a closer look at it, but when it was discussed, that's kind of what I was doing, Madam Chair, when you had to get my attention. I was trying to read through that. But I am on top of this. I want to review it and make sure that I give this board the best guidance as possible.
Reports, Director Critton.
I'll be very brief. I just would like to address Attorney Jackson regarding the status of, I know you were working on a potential trespass procedure that our police department could put into place to take authoritative action in such situations. I did speak with a member of the police department who mentioned that there was a blanket authority policy in place. I'm not sure exactly who you might have spoken with, and I don't work for the police department, so I'm not 100% sure what level of accuracy that statement was delivered with. But since it was brought to my attention, I figured I'd just share that there allegedly is some sort of blanket authorization to allow the police department the authority to trespass, or I forget the terminology you use, to execute trespass noticing for residential units with or without specification of the occupants. Not sure, but just sharing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Director Daniels.
Wanted to thank the residents for coming out this evening. I think it was a very productive meeting tonight. I think we're trying to move the CRA in a very positive way. My only concern is looking at that financial report. We have to make sure, especially we're out here asking for grants and all that, we have to ensure that our financial reporting is up to date. And there's just a lot of red flags right now to me, so I will be inquiring on those. But besides that, thank everybody for coming out.
Director Randolph.
Okay, I agree as far as that's concerned, as far as the accuracy. People do watch, and when we put information out there in the public, it becomes to be very confusing, especially if it's not accurate. So we need to do a better job with that. I did have a question about the community redevelopment plan, and I asked Mrs. Barnes if she had the latest copy. And what was given was the 1997 and I know it was in December 2015. I wanted to know what was going on with that. And then comprehensive plan that I was researching, that I did read, kind of went through that. The 2018 to the 2038 comprehensive plan amendment, to see whether or not any of these active at this point. Does anyone know?
The 2015 was never, the reason were you gonna answer?
Oh, you can answer it, I didn't have to.
No, wait. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And like we discussed before, Director Randolph, the 2015 plan was never approved by Orange County, so it's not something that we can follow. I sent everyone an electronic copy of the 2015 and the 1997 plan. Since the 2015 was never approved through Orange County, we had to default. We're still now on the 1997 plan, which is antiquated. It needs to be updated. And so that's something that I've been working on to put on the agenda before the board, to ask for a budget adjustment to put out our RFP for a company to do that for us.
Okay, and also observing the website, I just want to bring to the attention that is Eatonville Main Street still active?
I mean, Main Street is
The
its
Main
own
Street,
entity.
is it still active, or what's going on with that?
It's its own entity, so, I mean, I can't.
Okay, if it's own entity, I just want you to take a look. Go through the website, the Eatonville website, and just kind of take a look, because they have a Main Street there. There's is live as far as receiving donations on our website.
Is this the
Were you
CRA
aware of that?
website? I'm sorry, is this the CRA website?
Yes.
You mean it's a link from the CRA website to the
Well,
Eatonville Main Street
It's
website?
the main, yeah, I went to the Eatonville CRA website. And when you click on the top there, it says Main Street, you click on that, and then it brings you to information on Main Street, and it has a contribution block that people can make donations.
For
So when
Main
I-
Street.
For Main Street. So when I clicked on that today, this afternoon, it's allowing me that I can make a donation. So we need to dismantle that. Because that's been there all along, and no telling how many people have been sending money on our website to Eatonville Main Street. But just kind of take a look at it.
We just,
Okay, and also, just to kind of update on some things, there's another one here that we need to take off that has Coleman's Pizza. I think they've been gone for a while. And there's something about membership dues. I'll call you tomorrow. I saw something about membership dues that you can pay for. I guess it's Main Street or CRA or something going on with that. But just take a look at that. Yeah, because I don't think we really need that on our website. Membership dues for something. Other than that, I thank you very much, and want to remind everyone about the Juneteenth event that's coming up here. It's a lot of activities starting tomorrow night, as well as Saturday and also Monday. I do have a couple copies in case anyone would like to have a flyer information about it. So we're looking forward to have a pretty good time. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Yes. I was going to ask the attorney as well to just look at you've done your due diligence. I was asking to look and seeing if it was okay, permissible to use funds, to help out Zora. Being that I've been on the board a while, to say that the town hasn't helped, I don't think that was accurate at all, because I can think of a situation where we discovered as a board that Zora was only paying $1 for their permits used for their vending. The town had nothing to do with that. To me, that's in kind. I know that it was an instance where we partnered together to help with the permitting so that we can get some money back and some revenue as far as the town goes. I've been a part of Zora
as far as performing or as helping out for a long time. I think maybe from the second or third one. So I remember when it was just, the roads wasn't closed. And we, had that festival out there, and I saw that it grew. I don't like how Ms. NY said that we didn't give back as a town, because I think we did. I think that some of our resources as far as the police department closing down our town to help out Zora should be considered some in-kind, because we have businesses here that, due to the road closure for those 3 days, it affected their business. Since we don't have any hotels or anything here, I challenge Zora, if I could, if she was here, to say, how many resources or revenues have you brought to the town of Edenville? Just besides, having people walk through, have you required them to come through, maybe buy a t-shirt or something to show that you're giving back? I am always a stickler for partnership. I've been on their not their council meetings, but their board meetings asking for partnership. I think that we as a town, if we can partner together, we can make both entities, the town and Zora, be profitable, and also put both of us on the map. So that was just my piece on Ms. NY saying that. I think I look forward to hearing what you have to say, Attorney, on helping out with the funding. And guys, have a great day.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Drive carefully. Go get some rest. And with that being said, I move for adjournment. Okay. It's been moved and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Good night, everyone.
It's 8:32.
8:32.